It's well recognized that you came into this show with a manifesto of sorts, a belief that this show had to embrace a certain amount of realism and break away from the tropes of science fiction.
One of the very first things that David and I talked about was the fact that we wanted the show to be relevant, that we thought, you know, let's do a science fiction show that isn't just purely escapist, that isn't about people and civilizations that mean nothing to us. Let's do a show that's more in the model of older and more traditional science fiction that sort of commented on and examined contemporary society through this interesting prism. We were going to sort of try to represent all sides of these debates fairly. We would try to sort of take Lincoln's phrase of, you know, with charity for all, with malice toward none, and make that what the show is about, that we were going to sort of give everybody sort of their time and their place, and we were going to sort of give these very difficult, very thorny issues, you know, a hearing, and sort of watch how characters like Adama and Laura Roslin would grapple with these issues, but not pretend that it was as simple as sort of, I think, our political instincts wanted it to be.
I don't think it's very hard to have a take on this, to make the linkages between Battlestar Galactica and the kinds of things that we work on every day in the United Nations. I mean, people talk about Battlestar Galactica as science fiction. It might be, and there may be some science in there, but from our perspective, there's not a heck of a lot of fiction. I mean, if you do the sort of work that the hundreds of UN human rights monitors around the world do, you will realize that it is more allegory than it is fiction in any true sense of the word. And so many of the themes that we address every day in our work found their way into the story of Battlestar Galactica.
It was really about just trying to tell good stories and finding ourselves in the midst of this period of time in America where those good stories were being informed by kind of a sick world and an upsetting world. There's a sickness and a darkness and a tortured quality to the heroes of Battlestar Galactica.
I think it tested our humanness towards one another. And I think that that's really the beauty of what the show did to everybody, not just to Adama, but to everyone. I will say that I am so honored to have been able to get those scripts, because I was like you. I was waiting for the next one because we had no idea what was going to happen. No one did. It would never have been this way had not the writers in this medium, and especially in this show, led by both Ron and David, and superb writing of the highest caliber I've ever been involved with.
Mary, could you talk a little bit about Rosalind and her journey?
Absolutely. I think that this is really these ideas are central to what playing Laura Roslin felt like. It was a constant negotiation between a deeper, more wise, perhaps slightly more evolved spiritual person living inside a very frightened human being who felt very responsible for a certain idea, which was to save the human race, or at least make it possible for the human race to continue.
And just so that those in the audience know about the UN, I trust that you've all heard of the UN. We have quite a big brand. We have a good brand presence. We feed 90 million people around the world in 70 different countries. We are currently taking care of refugees in several different conflict areas. We're fighting for gender equality, much like on the show, where the show is basically a completely engendered environment where there's complete equality between the sexes, which is something that the UN sees as an ideal. And just seeing the power of Battlestar Galactica and seeing what could be done through this media, it's very clear to us that you're much better at communicating some of these themes than we are.